What's going on, y'all? So we got a crazy one today. So let me give you guys the context real quick. Apparently, there was a doctor, or perhaps a set of doctors, who were deciding to play musical chairs during a surgery, or excuse me, musical bingo, as if it really matters. But not only were they playing musical bingo during people's surgeries that they were performing, they actually had a patient who passed away due to their negligence. So let's dive right in. Let's get the full picture here.
The officer with the body camera knows this emergency won't require much from him.
This way.
The job of trying to save a man's life is already well underway.
Straight ahead.
And so he's here mostly to observe and ask questions.
What kind of surgery?
Questions in need of a few more answers.
He was already sedated. Anesthesiologist has all the information.
Okay.
It is a surgery so common, nearly 4 million will be performed in the U.S. this year alone. A surgery so routine.
We weren't thinking there was a whole lot of risk.
The man's wife was told no need to stay.
They said I needed to go, I could do an errand, or I could do whatever, and they would call me when he was done.
Chris Ryder never assumed the surgeon would be the one to make that call.
He said, this is Stark Johnson, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm just right across the street. And he's like, okay. He goes, I'm going to meet you in the parking lot.
And when she got there,
He said, do you believe in God? And I said, yeah. And I said, why? And he goes, would you like to pray with me? And I was like, what?
that's her on the opposite end of the officer's body camera, still struggling to understand why her husband's heart was no longer beating.
We had just talked about what we were going to do for dinner that night. And Bart had said, well, let's see how I feel.
Bart Ryder, her husband of 23 years.
We met at the Mercury Cafe. He just never met anyone that he didn't like and that didn't like him. It's just, that's who he was.
Notes obtained.
Wow, y'all. So the doctor decided to break the news to her in the parking lot. And he decided to preface the conversation asking her, do you believe in God? When it really, God didn't have nothing to do with that. That was purely his own negligence. And she's just going to run some errands, get some coffee. She's excited to have dinner with her husband later. He's thinking he's going to get whatever his problem solved, his cataract surgery, and he's going to be just fine. And, move on with the rest of his life. And this guy decided to call her in, knowing that he was the one who was responsible, and then chose to, I guess, try to save face and I guess gauge her temperature and see if he can just kind of get away with telling her whatever in order for her to just go on her way and just assume that, this was just a complication of the surgery when really it was his own error. But let's continue to listen and let's see how he ultimately was exposed.
By 9 News Investigate suggest Insight Surgery Center staff.
Was.
Notes obtained by 9 News Investigate suggest Insight Surgery Center staff noticed abnormal vital signs 11 minutes into the cataract surgery. By the time Bart Ryder arrived at Skyridge Medical Center, 1.5 miles away, his death was all but ensured. An autopsy blamed cardiac arrest.
It just didn't make sense. Bart was 56. We skied every weekend. We biked together.
So this dude didn't go in there for heart surgery. He went in there for eye surgery and ends up having heart complications. Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. So I'm glad she didn't just take everything on face value, and I'm glad she continued to dig. But we still don't really know how she found out, so let's keep going.
hiked together.
One by one, those who staffed the surgical center's OR that day drew these pictures, documenting who was where when things went wrong. A horrible accident, investigators concluded. Chris Ryder reluctantly concluded the same. That is, until she got a call from a doctor not present in the room.
And he goes, I'm telling you this because I think that's a major distraction.
That doctor's tip outlined a story so absurd, thought Chris.
I was like, what? Like,
she didn't know what to think.
My name is Carl Stark Johnson.
And so she hired a team of lawyers to take depositions of the surgeon, Dr. Stark Johnson,
Michael Urban,
and the anesthesiologist, Dr. Michael Urban, who then asked both if the tip was true.
Were you playing music bingo during Bart Ryder's February 3rd, 2023 cataract surgery?
Yes.
That's right.
I want to talk to you about the music bingo game.
A game they played routinely during these routine surgeries.
I'm sorry, Lorraine, the music what?
Bingo game.
Wow. Playing musical bingo during a freaking surgery. So you're sitting there, opened up. Well, I guess he's not opened up. I don't know the intricacies of the LASIK or the laser eye surgery. But I think it wouldn't have even mattered if they did open somebody up. It seems pretty normal. Completely oblivious of, completely unaware. And he ultimately dies. I've always wondered this, like, what type of checks and balances are there when it comes to doctors while they're in the surgery room? Because they're the only people with the expertise, with the knowledge of what they're doing. So, like, what if they are trying to scalpel you open and they accidentally slice something or make a mistake? Like, are they going to call it out themselves, or are they going to try to act like, oh, let me just try to cover it up real quick? And then be like, all right, let's close them up. And then next thing you know, 8 months down the road, you're pissing blood or something, and you don't know why. I've always wondered about that. You know, that's why, you see a lot more people getting these invasive surgeries for cosmetic purposes. And my rule of thumb, man, if you can avoid going under the knife, you should never want or seek to go under the knife. That should always be the last resort. But hey, people want what they want. But let's finish this up, y'all.
Game.
Oh, thank you.
The team inside the surgery center's OR would listen as songs played on Dr. Urban's cell phone.
I understand that you would keep score.
I would usually, but not always, keep score.
We continually listen to the radio and we categorize the songs.
Mostly 70s and 80s bands and musicians, they said.
So as an example, hit the 70s.
So these MFers, not only playing the game, they keeping score. They gambling probably. They got money at stake. They fuck around, lose some money, flip the table with you on it. This is crazy.
70s group Bee Gees were to sing a song, that would be a letter B.
B was for the Bee Gees, Barry Manilow.
And for Neil Young, G for Gladys Knight. You get the idea. Mark aboard, pass the time, all while doing something Ryder's family found even more inexplicable.
We learned from the nurses and from the depositions that it wasn't unusual for them to turn off the audible alarms.
So they would turn the alarms down or off?
Yes. And that particular machine allows that to happen.
You agree that the alarms monitoring the vital signs should not have been disabled or turned off. Fair?
Yes, that is fair.
With the alarms not audible and Ryder's body covered during the surgery, no one immediately noticed his skin turning blue, a telltale sign of oxygen deprivation. He died because his brain lacked the oxygen it needed to keep him alive.
My son is without his dad, his best friend. I'm without Bart, my guy. Yeah, it makes me angry. It makes me sad. I'm sad. I'm mad. I'm just disgusted. I'm just infuriated.
In a statement to 9 News Investigates, Dr. Johnson, the surgeon, blamed the anesthesiologist. Dr. Urban silenced the alarms. He did this without notifying Dr. Johnson or anyone else, something he said during the deposition.
So this is going to get ugly. They're just going to start blaming themselves now, right? Clearly, they don't have much integrity, much ethics. And I feel so bad for this lady. Now she's a widow. These kids don't have their father over something like this. But it does make you wonder, right? Because a lot of times we look at doctors or we look at dentists, people who have these esteemed positions. And we forget the fact that, like, although they make a lot of money and things may seem glamorous from the outside in, looking in, if they could have it their way, they would just like to have the money, right? They still have to go in and do these monotonous things that take a lot of time and focus, right? And they put in their 8 hours a week, or excuse me, a day, they're 40 hours a week, just like all of us, right? They're not free. And, just like how you like to go to the work at the warehouse or do your overnight stalking uh, at the grocery store, and you're like, man, I can't just do this for 8 hours without having some music in, or, you know what I'm saying, be listening to a podcast while I multitask, or if you like to study, right? These guys have to do this forever. And you got to take look at it from that human aspect that, of course, they're going to start seeking to kind of pass the time, and they don't necessarily want to be there, just like we don't necessarily always want to be, in our careers where we are doing the day in activities, right? Day in and day out. It gets boring, it gets monotonous. So that's something you got to consider, right? He's been doing it for long enough. He's cocky. He feels like he can damn near do it with his eyes closed. And as you can see, you do anything enough times, right? Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. You keep driving drunk, you keep doing that every weekend, uh, eventually you're going to get a DUI. So clearly, it wasn't an isolated incident. If he finally had a mishap happen, then you have to think that and assume that this probably happened hundreds of times, which is crazy. So we'll leave it there, guys. Crazy story. It caught my eye. I just had to see what was going on. And anytime I'm going to explore what's going on, I figure I might as well make content out of it and we can all watch it together. So, guys, like the video. I need that. Also, if you want to join the Limitless Legion, subscribe to the channel. Cash App's in the description if you want to buy your boy iced coffee. And join the Patreon as well, where I do post exclusive self improvement content. But until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video.